You just kind of tap danced around something. You were in a sexless marriage. Something that a lot of men watching this and listening to this can relate to. But Heather, you're an attractive sexologist. If this can happen to you,
Yes.
it can happen to anyone. So I don't know how much you want to get into that or whether you feel comfortable getting into that, but what the heck happened?
Yeah. I was married to someone much older than I am, and which, there was a 26-year age gap there, and literally one of the most amazing men I've ever met in my entire life. And we got along so well on so many levels. Um, Even now, like post divorce, because it was not an ugly divorce at all. We're just in different places in life, and this is just, where we decided to go. And we do, I'm sure he probably thinks the same thing as far as like, I don't know if we jumped too soon on that. I guess you won't really know. But we were in a sexless marriage for a couple of years, and like I said earlier, I kind of define sexless marriages. In my case, was about 6 or less times a year. And, we had a great relationship. We didn't fight about finances. We were both, successful. We complemented each other, as a team versus, one overpowering the other. And sex just eventually, while it was great in the beginning, it, tapered over time. And we eventually fell into that sexless marriage. He actually had his heart attack in Easter weekend 2 years ago. And I had a tummy tuck already scheduled for like 2 months after that. So he recovered and good to go. I had a tummy tuck. And I think the timing of that was horrible. It just happened to work out that way. Um, he had his heart attack, had already started feeling like I'm very healthy, not having any sort of, health issues. Like he takes care of himself, he's active, he has a young wife. So, and I have young children. So he was starting over. My youngest is 10. So you'd think, he's 59 and he has a 10-year-old and he's been in her life since she was 1. That's a very long time. So he started over. And so he felt like, hey, I'm healthy. I take care of myself. I'm not going to have to worry about these crazy things. But then you ring in genetics, and his family has a history of heart disease. So he did have a heart attack. He went in, had a stent put on the main vein, the heart back in the back, and recovered well. But I think a lot of that was already in his head, like, wow, I am older. I think it was already starting to bother him. I had a tummy tuck scheduled, so we carried on with that plan. I had my tummy tuck, and I think obviously my confidence skyrocketed. Wow, that one piece of skin that, my first husband was extremely awful, would make the comments of, no one will ever love you with those horrible marks on your body. And, the skin is disgusting. So it was something that definitely bothered me, even though, Jarrett never did anything or said anything. Like that was one of the things he was always very careful about. He loved and appreciated every part of my body, regardless of whether I felt it was flawed or not. So had my tummy tuck, my confidence, goes up big time because that was my biggest insecurity. I get more involved in the gym. I start working out. I'm motivated, losing weight. And, in the last year I have lost, like I said, like 45 pounds, I think. So drastic weight loss between my efforts and some medical things that had come up. So I think that with that confidence boosting and his confidence kind of being, stunted for a little while, I think that it did cause some insecurities. And definitely you roll into the accusations of, maybe she is cheating on me. Maybe she is going to find someone better than me because I'm old, and I'm using air quotes because I didn't look at him that way. That's my husband. So, that's the only person I want. So I think a lot of that kind of, got in his head, and definitely those insecurities took over, and it definitely just ended up not being a great thing for us. And I think that the tension, my case, yes, I was staying with friends. I was, hanging out with friends a little bit longer if the girls were at their dad's house and he was here because I wanted to go and do things and not party. I'm not a partier, but we would go and we do things, and he kind of just wanted to be home. And if he wants to be home, I'm not going to make him go anywhere. Like he is his own individual. So, I would go and do things without him because he wanted to be here, which is okay. But of course, doing those things when typically that wasn't something that I would do. But that was kind of my escape from, hey, we're not having sex and I'm not getting this intimacy. So I need to keep myself busy in other places, was kind of my thought process. And now looking back, no, it probably wasn't the right way to do it. But that's how I was keeping myself from being home and being sad, thinking that my husband didn't want me, because it's not a good feeling. And in his case, he's thinking, oh, she's out doing whatever it is she's doing, and maybe she's being unfaithful, And now, having been through all of that and on this end of it, I can see where he's coming from, 100%. So yeah, it was a bad situation.
You
It's
were
crazy
just, I
because
mean,
like that,
you were fundamentally incompatible
right,
at one part. It's so
right,
funny listening to your story because I hear this exact word for word story
yeah,
from the opposite side of the gender aisle, from men who kind of have this awakening, as we call it in our group, of, I'm 40 some odd years of age or 50 some odd years of age. I'm unhealthy. I'm this, I'm that. I just want to get back into shape. And they have a wife that's kind of sitting on the couch saying, at no fault of hers, I'm perimenopausal, or I've gone through the world of menopause. And I know this is different for every woman. So, ladies, don't jump on me for saying this. But for a lot of the women, and that means my sex life is over, or at the very least, severely diminished.
mm-hmm.
I'm not the spring chicken anymore. And, if I do it once a month, that's cool with me. How about you, husband? And the husband's like, no, I don't. And there is a chorus of people, and I'm curious to see what you heard from your social group, but there is a chorus of people in a man's life who will look at him and sit him down and say, "You better just basically stop thinking with the thing between your legs, and you need to cut it out with all this 'I need sex' nonsense, and 'I need intimacy,' and there's a bigger picture here, and that it's the marriage and it's the family and everything else. So set aside your very real physical need for that type of connection and prop up the other side of the relationship. That's just as, if not more important." And the men are shamed. And of course, this is why we have, your pornography and your sex workers and everything else, that they're there for a reason. It fills that void, so to speak. But just curious, did you hear from your own little social group, Heather, what are you doing? You got a good man here. He's everything any one woman could want in a partner.
I kind of mine. I kind of kept more quiet. I didn't really talk to people. And I think the biggest thing with that too is you think of the shame that a man goes through when they're hearing, oh my gosh, just be okay with once a month or whatever. But intimacy is a big thing in a marriage, and you need that to have that connection with that partner. And in my case, he's an amazing man. But, as far as showing intimacy, the main time that he would show intimacy was during sex. And so that's like, I knew when we had sex, this man loves me. Like, it's not just having sex. He's literally making love to me. And it is out of this, like, it's just a whole other experience. But in between sexual experiences, while yes, he, helped provide, he did all of the things that, he should have been doing. He was great. As a woman having the higher libido, I feel like you're shamed even more because you're not supposed to have the high libido. So when people look at in my friends group, when I would talk about it, they're like, ugh, I wish that my husband wouldn't want to have sex with me all the time. And you're like, why? And of course, being a sex coach, being a sexologist, intimacy coach, that's important. And I know, like, hey, I need to keep this relationship as healthy as we can keep it. And intimacy is a big part for me because this is my passion. This is something that I see marriages go from, being, in a rougher stage, and then they bring back that intimacy and their love just blossoms and they become so much closer together. I see the beauty in it and I want to have that. So it's an even bigger deal, like not just having a high libido, but also doing this for a living. That's my entire life,
That's your
So
brand.
yes. So I'm like, how ironic is it that you have a sexologist in a sexless marriage? And while I love this man, it's like, I didn't want to build to resentment. And I know over time it probably would have. And so thinking this through and having all of this was kind of, that's why I kind of go back and forth on maybe it was a good decision, maybe it wasn't. I'll probably regret it.